Welcome to Backstage with Becca B with special guest Caden Brauch. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca B. On this episode, this T. Schreiber's acting conservatory graduate. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca B. On this episode, this T. Schreiber's acting conservatory graduate from Seattle has been in regional productions of shows like A Christmas Story, Oliver, West Side Story, Jersey Boys, and more. Currently, you can catch him on the national tour of Back to the Future, where he plays Marty McFly. Please welcome Caden Brauch.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, I'm so excited to have you on. I mean, in LA, Back to the Future tour is the big talk of the season, I feel like. So everyone's so excited.
Great. Yeah, I'm very excited for LA. It's gonna be a big one.
Oh, it's gonna be a blast. So, first of all, how are you doing? It's been a wild year for you, obviously, with this tour.
Yes. I'm doing great. I've been having a blast. It's very easy to have a lot of fun with this. So, yeah, it's been like the craziest, coolest year of my life so far.
I mean, to get to star like in this show that's such a big hit on Broadway and take it around the country must be just like a pinch me moment for you.
Yeah, truly I say a dream come true, but like I don't even think I was like dreaming it was a possibility, but like it's the coolest thing, and just really uh yeah, just really grateful to be here. Really happy.
Yes, it's reality now.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm gonna get into Back to the Future more later, but
Yeah.
I want to ask, have you always known that you wanted to be a theater performer? And like, when was the moment you realized?
Yeah. Um, I think it kind of felt like it just snowballed into where it is today. Like there wasn't one moment that I was like, this is what I'm doing. Because like from a very young age, I was just doing like summer camps, doing theater. Um, a cool big moment was the start of my seventh grade year. I There was a regional production at the big regional theater in Seattle, the Fifth Avenue Theater. Um, they did a production of Oliver, and they needed like 50 kids.
My God.
So so they just did these like big like cattle call auditions, and I heard about it and I went and ended up like getting cast as one of just the ensemble kids. And then someone ended up dropping out. And so I got moved up to one of the Fagan's gang members. And so that was really cool. And I got to do a whole lot more in the show. Um, that was kind of a cool like breakout into the like professional scene. And then, the next year they did a production of A Christmas Story that I auditioned for, and got cast as the bully Scut Farkas. So
Love that.
also really crazy cool little like connection. The director of that production in Seattle, Brandon Ivy, was the assistant director of the Broadway production of A Christmas Story
Fun.
that was directed by John Rando, who directed Back to the Future. So
Wait,
it's a crazy like full circle moment to get into the room and be like, wow, well here we are.
connections. I mean, the theater world, I feel like I was just talking with someone about it last night because they are from like went to New York and know someone that I've had on the podcast in the past. And
Nice.
they've now moved to LA, and it's so small.
Yeah, it's really interconnected, and it's very cool to find these moments and connections along the way.
Yeah.
Um, But back to your question, like, things just kind of continued, and then into high school, I um was able to do a couple more professional productions, and it just kind of kept becoming a thing. And especially in high school when that happened, I was like, I think I could really like keep going with this. Like it was probably what I was going to do anyway. Um, just because that was what I would do outside of school and my extracurriculars and everything. But I think, you know, booking professional productions in high school, and I was like, okay, I'm not just like a cute kid anymore. Like
I can
I
get
gotta have a little something there that like I could do this. So
yeah.
that was kind of like a big turning point. But yeah.
I feel like it helps getting into the theater scene too, to be in like productions alongside other kids to
Yeah.
also be like this, hey, this is actually possible for us to do.
Yeah, well, it was that, and it was also being in the productions with like working actors, like adults, and
Yes.
just like trying to absorb as much as possible from them, and really like I think I really learned a lot. And I didn't realize how special that was until like um college, when I was like, oh, not everyone had this, and I really like I learned a lot from that. So it was really um very fortunate to happen that way.
Yes. I mean the Fifth Avenue Theater I've heard about, and like I've never been to Seattle. So
Yeah.
big theater in the theater world.
Yeah, yeah. So it was very cool to be able to work there, and um this other theater, the Village Theater, also in the greater Seattle area. So just yeah, learned a lot from the actors and the directors and everyone like in that area.
So I want to get into like education. So I saw you went to T. Schreiber's acting conservatory.
Yeah.
What made you decide to go there, and what was the most valuable lesson that you learned there?
Yeah. So I initially went the traditional college route, um, and did like the BFA musical theater program. But after the first year of that, that's when COVID hit. And so I was not interested in doing Zoom ballet from my living room. So I was like, it just didn't feel right for me. So I left, and after kind of a year of being at home, had the idea of wanting to kind of move to New York and make my own education. Like I didn't want to just like I was under no pretenses that I was going to move to New York and just book immediately, but that I wanted to move there because that's where things like T. Schreiber and like different conservatories like that and all those sort of things, they're all there. That's a great place to go for all of them. So, I went there and auditioned for T. Schreiber, got into that conservatory, and I learned a lot from them, because that was a very like straight acting, like plays and things like that. And growing up doing musical theater, I had a lot to learn, um, which I'm very grateful for, because it was, you know I think I really took some steps that a musical theater program's like acting side might not be able to offer, that this was really like true like straight play acting.
You got to expand your talent like even more. And
Yeah, we studied like Shakespeare and Chekhov, and like it was really it was a lot of fun, and yeah, um really fun to do something very different.
wow.
So,
So, random question. Speaking of
yeah.
Shakespeare, so the Shakespeare in the Park is coming back next year. I saw.
Mm.
Would you ever do that after
Oh,
studying Shakespeare?
I would love to do Shakespeare. Yeah, I was in a group of me and some acting friends over quarantine, we would meet once a week, and we would read like an act of a Shakespeare play every week, and we would kind of get together and discuss it and bring in text that we had like memorized throughout the week, like a little monologue or something like that. And yeah, I love the work that goes into a Shakespeare production. And I mean, his plays are just brilliant. So yeah, I would absolutely love to do something like that. It would be so much fun.
Yes, and I feel like a new generation need is gonna like keep coming to see those shows, and they're
Hmm.
so important.
Yeah, and they're just these timeless stories, and
Yes.
and really like what he was writing about was just humanity, and so that's not gonna go away. And so I'm glad that things like Shakespeare in the Park exist so that you know new generations can keep seeing these shows and really you know because especially for someone who's not like familiar with Shakespeare, it's hard to read.
It is.
You go and see it, you might not get like every word and understanding, but if the actors have done their jobs, you can go, I think I know what they're talking about, actually. Like, it's beautiful in this kind of weird poetic language, but I think I get it, and that's because of the work that the actors have done. So I would love.
Manifesting.
Yeah,
Manifesting.
hey,
Sure.
thank you. Fingers crossed.
Yes. So I also want to ask, you've also trained in improv comedy. So
Yeah.
how has studying improv helped you with theater? Because I've heard improv is like the hardest thing to do acting wise.
Yeah, well, I first of all, thank you so much for asking about improv. I'm so happy to talk about it. Um, Yeah, I think every actor should study improv. I've learned so much about acting and just theater and um, like all of this from improv. And I was thinking about like there's so many iconic moments from movies and like TV shows that you know you'll hear about, and you'll hear like, oh, do you know that was improvised? Like they were in the moment, they were listening, and they had an idea and they just ran with it, and that becomes like people's like favorite moments from these movies. So I think that's a really like, if that's not a reason to get into it,
Yes.
then also like I think it's really good to help like work on like listening to your fellow actors and really understanding like it is about the other person in the scene, and the whole idea of yes anding, like there can be conflict, but that you are yesing the ideas that they bring, and you're working with that, and you kind of then introduce your own ideas, and like just performing, like taking classes but also performing improv, you get to be in front of audiences, and you get to really kind of like workshop and hone in on like, oh, this worked and this really didn't, and like it's also getting comfortable up there on stage because it's live theater. Like just last week actually, we had one of the props. We have this projector prop that
A lot of
I go
a lot of intricate props in the show.
a lot. There's a lot, but um, this projector prop that I went to go put a photo into, and a piece broke off, and I kind of stared at it for a second, and then Don Stevenson, who plays my doc, he goes, "Don't break it," and I was like, "It's okay, I can fix it," and I like put it back, and like people knew something had gone wrong, but also this is kind of a special show because there are moments for improv. And so all this training is really like coming into play. Also, just a little plug for the people listening. Uh, our improv moments are different than the improv moments on Broadway. So if you loved the improv on Broadway, come see which moments we get to mess around with each other.
Oh my gosh. And like the show is so funny, period. Just
Yeah. Oh, just a really tight script. Yeah.
oh my gosh, to watch improv happening in front of your eyes is really fun because then you're like, wait, it's like it can change up every night too.
Oh yeah. We found like, some jokes or some things that work, and so we might have like a little like arsenal of ideas that we can play with, but the fact that things are a little different every night, and like, oh, how is this person going to react when I say this thing, and then how is that going to impact me, and it keeps me really present on stage. So I think that's a big reason, that I recommend, and I think everyone should study improv. Like, you get really comfortable, and you're not afraid for things to go wrong or for something to be different, and you just get to like breathe with your other actors and performers, and just like let it be what it is in the moment, and the audience can tell, and like
It,
that's a really fun time for
yes,
them. I think it's always fun for me to be like, oh, that was a little, that felt fresh, and I think it's exciting to watch.
yes, the audiences appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So before I get into Back to the Future, I want to ask real quick,
Yeah.
what is your favorite regional show that you've been in and why, and which one challenged you the most, do you think?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, great. So my favorite that I've done, I got to work on a couple of excuse me, a couple of new works in
Ooh,
in high school, which was really, really special and really cool. And there's this show called Writing Kevin Taylor that I was a part of. It was like a three-person musical. It was this kid and then these two adults, and it's basically a musical sitcom. Um,
love.
and it was hysterical. I loved the character that I played. His name was Tyler, and he was just a energetic ADHD kid. Um, and I learned so much from the two other actors in that, and like the whole process from first rehearsal to the closing of the show was a month. So
Oh my
we had like
God.
less than a month to rehearse. We're getting new pages, new songs, things like that. And then we come back and we perform it, and there was a night that I went on with pages for a new song because we had learned it that morning. So like that was probably my favorite one. And that did challenge me a lot. But I was also um that same theater, Village Theater, that I mentioned earlier, did a production of Into the Woods, and I understudied Jack when that was my junior year of high school. And I really, it was my first time being an understudy, and shout out to all of them and anyone who's done it, because I learned so much and just one of the hardest um jobs I've ever had, because you don't get up and rehearse until the show's open. You're just sitting there and watching, and I'm just writing down everything I can. Things change. I have to rewrite things down. I go home, I rehearse. That production was also crazy because the set was on a turntable, and they built this whole like they built the woods basically, and so it was like there was like hills and like little dips and like a cliff, and the trees were all ladders, so you could climb up all of the trees and stuff. So it was like, first of all, I felt like
Exciting.
yeah, I felt like a kid doing like, I felt like I was really in that world. It was so cool, but also very difficult to like kind of put it all together in my head, but just really so much fun, and really really rewarding in the end.
Well, that's like being on like an obstacle course on stage, I feel like, kind of the way you described it.
Yeah, I was like, okay, and then I go through tree 4. I was like,
Tree
I don't
four.
know how to write all this down.
Tree four.
Yeah,
I mean, I could see you as Jack for sure. Like, I
I
feel
would
like that's gonna be a role that you're gonna be in the future, probably. That's
I would love to, yeah. Um, because I never got to go on for Jack in that production, so
Ooh,
it's sitting there. I'm eager, I'm ready.
yes, yes, it's gonna happen. And what I'm hearing about this musical sitcom thing is
Yeah.
maybe television should turn this into an actual sitcom.
I mean, it would be pretty incredible.
Oh my God, I would love that. I feel like
Yeah.
there's not a lot I can't think of one musical sitcom. And I
That's what I'm saying. It was this unique thing that I was like, this is really good.
yeah,
Like really funny and like with a lot of heart and like the 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 kind of topics in it were all like it was this guy going through a divorce and then this kid shows up and is like because the guy's a writer and he's like, I'm your biggest fan and ends up like just kind of being his assistant and trying to help him get his relationship back together and stuff. It's really like silly but really beautiful and yeah, it was an honor to be a part of.
well, I'm all for a musical sitcom comedy show. So let's
I
make it.
love it. I That's what I'm saying.
Come on, Hollywood. So Back to the Future, I wanna what was your audition process like for Back to the Future and what made you most eager to audition?
Oh, I mean, like eager to audition. I mean, this show is so wonderful. I was also just excited to get any audition. I was just like, come on, give me something. Let me do something. Really just eager to get cast in something. But I mean, the audition process was wild. I had just finished doing a summer stock production last summer, and I come back and I'm kind of like fresh off that and like back into the musical theater game and really feeling excited. And then this comes along and I was like, okay, cool. And it was my first in-person audition that I'd had. The all the others had been like self-tapes and I was like, just get me in the room. I just want to be in the room. Like it's gonna be great. The funniest part of this whole audition experience was I initially went in for George, the dad.
Oh,
Um, and I was like, okay, interesting. And my agents were like, yeah, we submitted you for Marty. I d- look at both, look at all the material and just like be
okay.
prepped. I was like, sure, why not?
Yeah.
So I go in and I'm wearing like a button down and khakis and stuff because I'm like, I'm going for George. And they were like, I walked in and hello, hello. All right, you ready? Let's just jump into the song. And I was like, sounds good. And they start playing Power of Love, which is Marty's song.
Yep.
And I was like, hold on, just time out real quick.
Who am
You
I
called me
auditioning?
in for George. And they were like, what? We did? Like they were like looking at papers and they're like, we didn't, I don't know what happened. But I had looked at the song. And so I was like, I know it. Like I'll sing it.
Okay,
Um,
skills.
if I can just get the sheet music, I don't know the lyrics by heart, but I know the song. And they were like, really? And I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yes.
And that went well because um, the person who was calling me or calling people into the audition room, she followed me out and she was like, do you live here like in New York? And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And she was like, can you come in tomorrow for like a real Marty audition? And I was like, I would love to. And so I came in the next day with a jean jacket and jeans, and I was like, if I
Martin.
had known, here's what I would have, gone with. And I had to learn the opening number that night. I was like in the walk-in refrigerator at my job, like belting out like a B because I was trying to like learn the material.
Oh.
And so I went in the next day and I did it and they were like, great, yeah, we'll see you again. Like you'll get a call back. It'll just be a while. And then it was 2 months later that I ended up going in. So it was like end of November. But that whole 2 month period, I had just been working on the songs and just like I basically I didn't stop working on it. I was like, we're going in.
Set.
Like I'm committing to this. Um, because it was also, at the time it was such a crazy idea in my head. I just finished up like a small little summer stock gig, and then this was like a national tour as the lead. And but along the way, I started like, oh well, maybe like,
Confidence.
like maybe we'll see. And then at a certain point I was like, nope, we're setting all of the doubt aside and I'm just going 100%. And I think that energy to go in being like, I am getting this, I
Definitely.
think that was, a good energy to go in with. But I did the callback. They got me a ticket, so I saw the show on Broadway, and I was like taking so many mental notes, just sitting there watching Casey do it and being like, okay, okay, okay. Oh, that's funny. I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna do that exact thing. Um, and yeah, I did a work session for it,
Oh my
which I
God.
didn't really understand what that was, but we just kind of worked on the songs, and then the next day I had my final callback, and then you know. I walked into like 15 people in there and I was like, "Whoo,
Yes.
hi everybody." And then 4 days later I got a call from a UK number and I was like,
Like,
and
good.
he was the executive producer and he said, "Are you sitting down?" I was like, "No, but I will." And he said, "Well, congratulations, you are Marty McFly." And my world
It just changed in that
just
instant.
blew up. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say the first audition, speaking of improv, sounds like improv really helped in that situation.
Yeah, yeah, to just kind of like go with the flow of it. Even with my final callback, I did want to mention this that the final callback, I was supposed to go in at, I don't know, let's say like 3 o'clock. And I'm there early, and there's someone who's supposed to go in at like 2:50 for another role. What was weird is after the first callback, I never saw another Marty. So
Oh my
they
gosh.
must have spaced us out for some reason, which was kind of nice. I was just like, it's just me. I'm just here. Like, it's great.
You're like, you're
But
never gonna meet another Marty.
yeah. Um, but the person who was supposed to go in at like 2:50 was like in the bathroom or something, and so casting had come in and been like, "Oh, this name, no," and it was like, "Well, you're next, so we'll just wait." And I was like,
Oh,
"I'll go in now," and they're like, "Are you sure this is your
yeah.
final callback?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." Like it kind of got me into this like yes, the yes anding, just kind of that energy of saying yes and just kind of going with it. And I think I walked in with that and was able to just really like, I mean, my heart's pounding, but
I
like,
mean, if it wasn't, I'd be like,
yeah,
you're crazy.
yeah. But also to be able to like, in and amongst that, be able to breathe and kind of be in this state of, we're yes anding and we're just kind of going with the flow. And, I think it really paid off. So,
I mean, the confidence they also saw, they were like, okay, he's
yeah,
prepared
yeah,
to
yeah.
take this on and
That's a
lead
good
a
point. Yeah.
tour. And I think that's always a good sign when you're looking for a lead on a tour.
Yeah.
So, how do you, when you booked the role, how do you prepare to go out on the road for a national tour? Because you're traveling for like a year-ish, maybe
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty similar during the audition process that I really didn't stop working on it. I got the call and it was kind of Christmas time and I was like, all right, well, let's celebrate that. And then we got to the new year and I was like, all right, Marty does so much in the show
Yep.
and there's like, you know, there's like 8 full songs and a bunch of other little like moments throughout. So like, I just worked with my voice teacher um pretty much from January up until we started rehearsals and just really like I had all the songs down and really like was working and just practicing, really trying to get my voice comfortable with it because it's such a sing and it's a pretty taxing role just like vocally as well. So just to really like build up my stamina and we really kind of went about that in a really, I had 4 months. So I was like,
Okay.
great, we can get ready in that time. And it was just about like working up and, kind of bouncing in between different songs and building up that stamina. And yeah, and I was able to come in and my first like vocal rehearsal, they were like, "Oh, great, you're in good shape." So
Yeah.
like
Good
good.
sign.
Woo, thank God.
Good sign, because you're also running around on that stage too, and you're in like, I don't know, how long are are you in the show? Like how many minutes
I
are
I
you
think I probably have about a little over 10 minutes off stage in the whole show, which is
not much.
not hyperbole. That like there's like the second half of one song, most of another song, and that's basically it in act one.
Oh
And
God.
then I have like a couple other songs in act two, but really I'm just like it's kind of like a moving train and I step on and it just
Keeps moving.
my first time off stage is like 40 minutes into the show. Uh, and I know because I checked because I
Oh
I
my
got off
God.
stage for like our like final dress rehearsal and I asked my dresser, I was like, "What time is it?" She was like, "It's 7:45." And I was like, "We started the show like a
Whoa.
little after 7." So like
Mind
it's
blown.
yeah, it's been fun to get water to figure out when I can drink water. There may be little inside baseball here. There may be a couple props and hidden water stations throughout the show.
Ooh.
So
That's actually really smart.
yes, and very grateful for it. So yeah, that's been a whole bit of choreography on its own. Is finding when I can drink water.
Yes. Okay, so when you saw the show on Broadway, were you,
Yeah,
how is this thing gonna tour?
parts of it. Yeah. It's such an insane show. Like the scale of it, it's just so grand. Um, and I watched it and was like, oh my God, like I could get to do this. Because
Yeah,
the first time I saw it was right before final callback. So I was like, oh my God, this would just
inspirational.
be a dream. Like it just looks like so much fun. I mean, like even now I'm still like, what? Like it's crazy. But
Fun show.
yeah, we've definitely there are some differences throughout. There are some
There have
like
to be.
the sets are a little bit different than they are on Broadway. Just to consolidate because they have to pack it up and put it into I believe we have 8 or 9 trucks that drive this set. And usually it's like I think 2 to 4 for a production. So like the
Wild.
the scale is insane. But yeah, there are some things that like, we have some differences. For people who have seen the show. There's a cool little ending sequence that I think you know what I'm talking about. Ours is a little different just because of the
The
touring.
tour.
And when I saw it, I was like, we don't have to do that on tour. Like, I'm fine with that not being set up less than 24 hours ago and then being like, "Ah, I'm sure it's all screwed in properly."
Y- y-
So, yeah, not to give things away, but if you have seen the show, for the people listening, and we're coming to a city near you, you know, come see the show and see what's kind of different, see how many differences you can catch. Um, like with our improv moments, like we've kind of created our own production that's a it's a little different. Still doing the same show, but you know, it's a little unique. So, um, if you've seen it on Broadway, you can see it again and see a little different show.
Well, you have to make things work on tour.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's not like you can install things in the theater
Yeah, like
on tour.
there are some things that are like built deep into the Winter Garden stage so that those work, and we just don't we can't do that because it's got to just be on top of whatever stage we come into, and then 3 weeks or 1 week later we just go off to the next one.
I'm so excited to see how it comes together on the tour.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In rehearsal process, at what point of the rehearsal process did you like start going about making the character of Marty your own, and how do you think you did that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was a real I think it just took time. Um Also our creative team is just fantastic and was really, day one. Um, and I think this was a sentiment for everybody, but it was said to me and Don, who plays Doc, it's like, I don't want you guys to be Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. I don't want you guys to be, but also I don't want you guys to be Casey Likes and Roger Bart. Like,
Right.
I want this to be
Like
the
you.
touring production, which was really beautiful. And what Casey and Roger have built on Broadway is so much fun to watch and really beautiful. And the movie is so iconic. Um, so there were parts of the movie, there are certain lines that I know I have to,
Like pay tribute to.
yeah, give the people what they want. Like nobody wants to hear my take of, are you telling me you built a time machine out of a like, they want, that's how you say the line. And
Go
which I
with
was so
nostalgia.
excited to do, because there's also plenty of moments that have become our own. And I think that was just like through me and Dawn building our relationship with each other, and with the whole rest of the cast, kind of like how everyone kind of approaches their character, and how we build things, and um but also that, you know this idea of like, they cast all of us for a reason. So the ideas that I have and that I'm coming in with, I should trust those because that's why they hired me. So it was yeah, it was definitely, the first day of rehearsal, we did some scene work, and I really just did a Michael J. Fox impression. And then I went home and my voice was really tired. And I was like, all right, so that doesn't work. I can't,
It comes.
because we're doing it for a stage versus
Yeah.
on a movie. So, you know, he there has to be a staged version of, kind of his cadence and his speech pattern. So, um, yeah, it was just a lot of work in progress, and finding what worked, and in the room and then in front of audiences has been another big thing of like, oh, okay, that's where the comedy is, or that's I was just talking actually with Burke, who plays George, my dad, about like, there is a temptation to slip into the comedy a little too much sometimes, maybe, but then the moments that have the heart in the show maybe don't land well enough. And it's like it all just has to come back to the honesty of it. And like you understand like it's a joke, like we're, it's very funny, but it's also when we get to the end, if we've done our jobs right and really stayed honest through the show, that's when people cheer because that's the real satisfying payoff. So,
Oh, oh yeah. I know exactly what you mean. And it's like a balance. It's like a careful balance between the comedy and the heart, which like
yeah.
speaking of hard, I can't imagine how hard that is to find.
Yeah, I mean it's really like, you know, with my whole cast, I really felt this with Dawn throughout the rehearsal process that I was like, I just need to not try. All I need to do is just look at him and just react to what he's doing because he's, you know, Broadway star, really just master of his craft and to be able to share the stage with him is just is just wonderful every night. So just to listen and react and try not to get in my own way. That's been the main thing.
Yes. And like finding something that works 8 times a week too, like
Exactly. Yeah.
because that's a big number of shows and this you
Yeah.
have to like keep the stamina up and you're touring, you're traveling to different
Yeah.
places.
It's a whole mixed bag.
Oh
So
my goodness.
yeah.
I mean, I feel like the rehearsal process of a show like this is kind of the most important of the show because that's when the team develops chemistry. And
Mhm.
what is the chemistry like for the cast of this tour on stage?
It's it's really special. We have such a supportive and passionate group of people, and I was really happy about that because it is such a wonderful, fun and silly show, and I think maybe I had a worry or two coming in that some people wouldn't appreciate that. Um, but like everyone just comes in, they're all really excited, they all enjoy the show,
Yeah,
and we all understand what it is, and so does the show understands what it is. The show understands that it's a fun, silly, campy musical movie adaptation, but like it has so much heart and care that like it's really it really does a lot. And yeah, it's really fun to do, and I think the audience, really picks up on that, and we feel the love at the end with, you know, the end with Power of Love, and then Back in Time during Bows is like
fun.
it just kind of becomes like a concert, and it becomes kind of a celebration of like, you know, we all went on this journey together, and now we just get to rock out and celebrate that we were all together in this. And you know, the the togetherness, and not to bring this up again, but post COVID, it's a beautiful thing to do, and there are moments that just all it takes is the audience like
Like
cheering for a moment that like almost makes me tear up on stage sometimes, that like I'm like, yes, you are here with us, and you're really like you are in it with us, and enjoying that, like, you know enjoying it. So it means a lot, and it's just been so much fun, and the fact that we have a cast who also really enjoys it and just has fun out there um makes it really easy to do every night.
there's nothing like live theater and I mean that concert part at the end is just the most fun, I feel like. It's like
Yeah. Oh
After
yeah.
everything's resolved and like all the conflicts resolved, you're just like, woo. And you never want to take
Yeah.
it as an audience member.
That's great to hear because it's probably one of my favorite parts. And like I do look out or I sneak glances out at the audience, but to really in those moments look out and see people and connect with them. And we've had people sitting in the front row dressed up as Doc and Marty, and I've had like, you know, meeting like little kids
Oh,
with the vest on and stuff. And we we had a group of people dressed up as like Doc and Marty and Lorraine, and there was a guy dressed up as the clock tower lady, and that
oh
was
my God.
like the love that people have for this movie and this show. Um, yeah, that really makes it like, it's a taxing show, but
Yeah.
it's so rewarding to do, and I just really have a blast. And when people dress up and when they're so into it, that just helps me get even more into it and just really ride the waves kind of throughout the show. Um, because when the audience is laughing, it just feels like we're playing a game of tennis and just like hitting it back and forth to each other, and just it really feels easy.
That's a good way to describe that. And I was gonna ask because like one of my favorite things about seeing it on Broadway when I saw
Yeah.
it was the audience's reactions to like every scene. And I
Yeah.
there were a bunch of school groups when I was there. So the kissing, the young kids were like, ew, and stuff.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Do you have any favorite slash memorable audience reactions so far?
Ooh. I mean, yeah, like the cheering, and when they celebrate with us is always really special. Um, uh, when during the kisses there have been some like ow, and I'm like,
Oh,
all right, relax.
like
But
come
it
on.
it makes me it makes us laugh out there. One moment that I always think is just it was very funny. It's the it's the scene right before the Act One finale when I'm trying to get George to go talk to Lorraine and ask her out, and I'm like, "Hey, just tell her that like, you know, destiny has brought you to her, and you think she's the most beautiful girl in the world. Girls love stuff like that. Girls love that kind of stuff. I should know the lines at this point." But I said that girls love that kind of stuff. And one girl out in the audience was like, ha! And then the whole audience laughed at her reaction. And that was really fun.
She
So
probably
that
didn't
sticks
even realize.
out. Yeah. I mean, that sticks out to me. There's been a couple times where my other cast members have just broken me on stage. And I think that's
That's
fun
part
for
of
the
theater.
audience to watch too. Um, like just on Sunday, we had the understudy for Doc go on for those shows, and he and I are also very close, and he, he has his own take on the character,
Um,
and he just, I was laughing. I was fully laughing on stage, and there was nothing I could do about it. It was just hilarious.
well, it's the best part of live theater is to watch like things that you know don't normally happen on stage right in front of you. You're like, well, I'm
Yeah.
watching a special show.
Yeah, and like same with Burke, who plays my dad. He's gotten me a couple times with some moments that when they pop up, you'll know. You'll recognize it. But and same with Don. Sometimes he really just leans into something that I'm like,
Can't help but laugh.
I'm gonna really shut my mouth here for a second.
Have you
So,
made anyone break on stage?
ooh, that's a good question. I mean, a lot of the time I feel like the straight man to other people's kind of like ridiculous circumstances that they're in. So I can't think of one, but I'm sure uh I have heard moments that people enjoy from off stage, which I appreciate. So that's always nice to hear. But I don't think I've gotten anyone yet, so I might have to.
New goal.
Yeah, I know.
Definitely a good goal.
Yeah, I gotta get someone back here.
Oh, I'm curious who the first person is going to be.
I know, yeah. Place your bets.
Congrats now, everyone.
Yeah.
What is your personal favorite scene in the show and why?
Ooh. I think I mean I think there's so many moments that
Sure.
just like, like the moments when the audience cheer always just make me light up inside or outside if I'm not visible on stage. Um, so those moments are always big. Power of Love and Back in Time we've kind of mentioned already, but Johnny Be Good is a
Oh,
big one. Especially, my dad was the one that introduced me to rock and roll and played a lot of that, in car rides as a kid and stuff. And really, that's where my love of rock and roll came from. And whenever he's in the audience, getting to do Johnny Be Good and just like knowing that he's there, that means a lot. So that's a
oh,
big one. And just also knowing like, you know, as soon as I start the like, well, this one's an oldie, and kind of everyone laughs and they know where it's going, and I'm like, all right, here we go.
we're following along.
And then just get to rip that guitar is really fun.
Do you play guitar?
I I have worked very hard at that guitar. And also our orchestra is very talented. So
Yes, yes, yes.
that is the answer that I will give to that.
Definitely. Do you have,
But
is there like interest though in like learning how to play in real life?
I mean, I've taken lessons in the
Oh,
past and stuff, and so I know, I know chords and stuff like that. But then they got me some lessons for this
like
show and
how to
for
play.
the, because it's like, I play a little bit of Power of Love at the beginning, and
Oh,
then I'm
then
playing the guitar in Earth Angel, and then Johnny Be Good. So there was a couple things to learn, and luckily my roommate back in New York plays guitar, so I was like, "Can I borrow yours and just practice every day?" So, you
go
know,
full out.
yeah, same with the skateboarding. I got some lessons, which was great, and I was like, I'm gonna just work. It was kind of like with the songs, like I'm gonna work so much before rehearsals start because I know there's going to be so much to work on in rehearsals that if I can check anything off the box already, like perfect. So I walked in and I was like, I
We're
know
good.
the guitar, I know the skateboard, I know the songs, some things I can take off my plate already, which
Yeah.
was nice.
Oh my
So,
God, I would fall like flat on my face if I tried skateboarding. So
and I almost have a couple times.
reality.
Yeah, the live theater.
Yep. I mean, props to you for learning how, because I mean, that's terrifying in my opinion.
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
So, uh, do you have a city that you're most looking forward to visiting and why?
Um, there's like there's a lot. I'm really excited just to be able to travel the country like this and see all these different cities. Um, DC was a big one. Kennedy Center,
Yeah.
that is incredible to be here. Chicago is where I went to college for a year, so to be
Ooh,
back there, really cool. Um, Seattle is probably top of my list just to visit my hometown, perform at the touring theater that I saw all the tours come through.
that's
Like
cool.
it, that's not even, I'm not even ready for that yet. Uh, yeah. And then just like to explore all these cities I've never been to, and just get to like, I love we have the shows at night, and I have to take care of myself and not really do a whole bunch socially. So I like to go off by myself and just kind of explore and, see the cities, and so that's been a lot of fun. Yeah, so I'm just excited for like every city. So to the people listening, when we get to a new city, please
Leave
like send
suggestions.
recommendations, send favorite places and stuff, because I get there and I'm like, I don't know what's in Knoxville, Tennessee. I've never been. So
You're like,
all my
now
Knoxvilleians out there,
what? I
drop
mean,
your recommendations.
Knoxville, I don't know, but Nashville is super fun.
Yeah. I can't remember if we're going there first year or
or yeah,
when that is, but yeah.
so fun.
Mhm.
So, how would you convince people? I'm convinced. How would you convince people to come see Back to the Future on tour?
Well, I'm so glad that you were convinced. But to the people listening, I mean, if you love the movie, like I've said, the creative team, like Bob Gale, who created the movie, was in the rehearsal room with us and was like giving us notes or like giving us trivia about stuff. Like, this is a real labor of love by the people who made the movie. So that's number one. And, like we have all the moments that you know and love from the movie. And we have all these new moments. There's a lot of heart in this production. There's some moments that are really grand, big spectacles, huge dance numbers or things like that. And then there's some moments where you can hear like people's footsteps and it gets really quiet. And I almost love those moments even more because it's so cool for a show of this spectacle and grandeur that has these quiet, really heartfelt moments that I think is really cool. Plus, we got some real rockin' singing and dancing going on. So, uh, the songs from the movie, like Johnny Be Good, Power of Love, Back in Time, and then also a whole bunch of new songs that me and the rest of the cast get to sing that just, I mean, they get stuck in your head. You're dancing along in your seat. I'm dancing along backstage when I'm off stage or on stage. I just kind of get to jam out sometimes and just kind of sit and watch.
Make up your own choreography.
Yeah, I've definitely I'm like just gonna sit here and like dance around myself while the rest of them, all the ensemble, does their incredible choreo every night. Like it's so insane. So um I don't know. Plus, like, guys, we got the DeLorean and it works. So
Yes.
if
Yes.
nothing
That's a
else,
good
come
reason.
see how we do that on tour
That's
because
a
that's incredible.
really good reason. Have they taken any of your backstage choreography and like put it on stage?
I have like there's stuff that I just kind of did that they were like, sure, keep
Okay.
that. That's fun. So um yeah, it was fun. We were really allowed to like kind of mess around and get silly with it and it was really fun to really like kind of like there were things in rehearsals and then the creative team either just came and saw it or is coming this week and just to kind of check in on things.
Cool.
And we were like, all right, here comes all the notes and stuff. And they were like, love it. And I was like, great. Like, they're just so supportive of us having fun. And I think that's a very clear part of it is that we are just all having a blast every night. So, and I think I don't know, it's infectious. Like,
It
you're
is.
sitting there and you're like, "Meh," like, how?
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Yes, you're having a good time, and that's what the show is all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask a little like random question.
Love it.
What year would you travel back in time to if you could, and why?
Ooh. I mean, like 1985 is a pretty good sounding year. I have such a deep love of rock and roll. So to travel back in time to like, you know, the Sunset Strip and when all those bands were kind of like really coming into the stage, like that would have been so cool and so much fun. Um, to like live in that time and just kind of like I would love to like, we get to really do some like part of a rock concert as part of the show.
Yes.
And it does make me like, you know, I think about those bands and like, oh, it'd be so fun to be back like in that day and age and um, you know, maybe try and do a band of my own or just like be like kind of like in that world. Um, I mean, that's a big one. Or like, to talk about what we were talking about at the beginning of this, going back to like Shakespeare's time and
Ooh,
seeing those plays performed like
like what?
the way they first were, because there's so much there's so much we've been able to discover about all that and like how a lot of it was spoken very quickly and you know and it was just these actors like had this all memorized and stuff and then would be brought back like years later and they're like I remember that one, yeah, it's like something like this. So but to like to see that and really like experience that would also be really special.
Yes. You've got to figure out how to make this car actually work and go back in time.
I
Your
know, I
life.
know. I gotta, well, the car doesn't respond to my voice, so that's really the big issue. So I
It's
have
kind
to
of like
somehow trick Doc into
reset.
getting, yeah.
Reset, reset.
Yeah,
If you could turn any movie into a musical, what would it be?
that's a very good question. I don't think this is my answer, but I think somebody else on this tour had said this once, but it's just such a good idea. I think Ferris Bueller's Day Off would work really well.
It
Like
would.
it kind of has, or like The Breakfast Club. That would also be pretty fun. Like it kind of has this like the 80s Brat Pack style energy. We just got The Outsiders. And
Sweet.
I think people are loving the that time period. And also like, you know, we really like have this music that really feels like the 80s and then going back and then we have some music that's really feels like the 50s. And The Outsiders has that like bluegrassy like folk music feel that's really cool and beautiful. So I think there's really something fun you could do with that. Also Ferris Bueller and like breaking the fourth wall, like there's
So
there's a couple moments we kind of like, you know, do a little look out to the audience of like there's some moments that it's a little there's an extra layer to a joke or that I that are very fun and some of my favorite moments. So I think audiences really love that and I think that would work really well.
yes, definitely. Someone's gonna like watch this and or listen to it and be like, that's a good idea.
I know, and you know who would love to be in one of those is me. So
Yeah. Yes. Speaking of which, what are
Mhm.
some of your dream roles to play on stage one day?
Ooh, let's see. I have two uh that have been dream roles for several years now, and they are could not be more opposite directions.
Love that.
Um, but Elder Price, or really just any of them in the Book of
Okay.
Mormon. That's one of my favorite musicals. I just think it's so funny. Um, so I'd love to do something like that. Or um, the MC in Cabaret has always been just such a um just like the depth and like the like darkness to it would be really really fun to explore on the stage, but also that really like showmanship side of it I think is also um very attractive and very fun. So those are my two. Um or something new. Like I love
Yeah.
doing new works and that kind of like joint creative process. And so new works are also a big favorite of mine.
You're like, or Ferris Bueller.
Or Ferris Bueller, yeah. Or the blonde one in Breakfast Club. He's one of the only movie actors that I feel like I was like, oh, I kind of look like him. So
Yes.
growing up, that's it's like
Yeah.
blonde. I don't know him.
Oh my God, you picked like two serious acting roles though for dream roles.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to.
Like great hard roles to play on stage.
I mean, I know Adam Lambert is coming in as the next MC, but if he gets tired here, I'll
And you're like, hey, I'll be there whenever you call me.
yeah.
So I want to ask, what advice would you give to up and coming actors in this industry?
Yeah. My my path was a very weird path and a very like not the typical BFA 4 years showcase everything kind of path, but it was it was what I knew what was right for me. And I think that's my main advice is uh, it's tough to take that time to really listen to yourself, but like choose the path that is right for you. And if that is the 4 years, there's a lot of people in this cast who did the 4 year program and here they are and they're great and that worked for them. And that wasn't really what I ended up wanting or what it was going to work for me. Um, but I think also in whatever path you choose, like really be ready to learn and listen to what people have to teach you and get ready to learn from places you didn't even expect there were things, like because again, I didn't move to New York and I was like, I'm gonna just book Broadway. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
Broadway. But like there's nothing wrong with getting more training and also like of course there's more to learn. There's always more to learn. Um that's the exciting part about life. So, you know, it's not notes that people give are not personal. But also like I don't know. I had a weird mental block for a while with singing and a little bit with acting too, just not understanding like you can improve. Like it's not your singing voice doesn't have to just always be your singing voice. Like you can get better, you can learn more. It's a muscle. It can get stronger. So like just I don't know. I think my two things are learn as much as you can and learn on the path that's right for you. And, don't be afraid of taking the non-traditional path, but just know that it's a different one.
Yes. And I feel like you're so right. And it's good to hear to, hey, you don't have to take the same path everyone else is taking. Everyone has their own journey that they're on.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that's that's another exciting, beautiful thing is like your journey's your own. And so if something's not feeling right, like you can change that, you can pivot and just yeah, to just approach that path and that journey and the people you encounter with a lot of gratitude and a lot of love. And I think that just that really pays off, and it's also just a happier way to live life. Like just
Definitely.
yeah, lead with gratitude, lead with love.
And I love what you said about like notes too, because I feel like when someone gives you notes, that means that they really like care and want you to excel and succeed.
That oh my God, yeah. Absolutely. I could not agree more that like, you know, eh, to think about like if you see a show and it's so bad that you go just like, and if you know someone in it, you're like, "Yeah, it's great." And then you just
Right.
leave and you're like, "I don't even know like
What?
uh. But like if you see a show and there's some things that you're like, I want to like I would do this differently. That shows a level of care, like if someone's like, I don't think this is serving you, that's because they want you to succeed.
Yeah.
And so like that's exciting that they're invested in you.
Yes.
They're not giving up on you. So yeah, be grateful and thank them along the way.
I mean, it's hard to hear like suggestions, and it's like kind of like, okay, did I do something wrong at first? But then it's like a process of learning. Hey, maybe that person just wants the best.
Yeah, and it's a weird industry for that because it feels so connected to like your identity and things like that, but they are skills and they can be improved, and it's not an attack on,
Yep.
someone's character. You're like, "Oh, I thought you could have done something differently in that scene." It's like, I'm not saying you're a bad person. Like, I'm just saying like I want you to succeed and be better.
Yes. And before I get to my last question, I want to ask, where can
Yeah.
people follow you on social media to keep up with you, to keep up with your journey on tour?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that. My Instagram is Caden.Brauch. Oh, I
You like
should
double check?
let me confirm. Caden.Brauch. That's Brauch. Um, where yeah, posting fun photo dumps along the way and
Yes.
backstage travel adventures, and it's a good time. So drop a
Um,
follow, guys.
all of
Happy
the
to
stuff, and I'll put it in the lower thirds so everyone can follow you and in the description of the
I
video.
I appreciate that. The other place that people can see me is on tour. Buy tickets, Back to the Future the musical on tour. It's a ton of fun, and I feel like it's been mentioned a couple times, but like it's a beautiful uh it's a beautiful show, and it's a beautiful journey to go on uh with a whole room full of people, and that's a thing I think to celebrate and
Yes.
enjoy, and take some time for yourself, take a break from the hardships of the
Life.
world and everything, and you know and come watch a journey and come cheer with a group of people. It's a wonderful thing.
Theater is absolutely wonderful thing. One of my favorite things ever.
Yep, me too.
So, do you have anything else that you'd want to promote? Or, I mean, just reiterate Back to the Future on tour.
Yeah, there's this thing that's been taking up all of my time and life, and it is Back to the Future, the musical on tour. Um, no, I mean like, I'm very excited to be here, and it's so much fun to do. And when we have days off, I come back and I just go, "Oh, like I'm excited to do this again." And
Yeah.
uh last week we passed show number 50. I this week I think we'll hit 60 at some
Oh,
point. So like, we've been doing it for a good couple months now. We're about to hit the third month of the tour, and things are just
so exciting.
flying by. Like it's just been so much fun. So it's a wonderful cast, and it's a really great show. It's a really fun time. So I really urge people to come out and treat themselves and have some fun. And you know, it's a real uh gift and honor to be leading this tour. And it like one of the most insane things. I can't
Ooh.
believe I'm here and I'm just, trying to say thank you as much as possible because it's so cool. So yeah.
It, it's a moment that that's gonna stick with you forever and ever.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks for watching this episode of Backstage with Becca B. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Becca B Talks TV. Or for more exclusive content from this interview and more, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Backstage with Becca B. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.